this session is a nice segue into what I'm talking about. My name is Guna Sridhar. Good morning to everyone, and nice to be part of this event, and actually privileged to be part of this event. I've been in the IT industry for over 30 years, and in variety of roles, variety countries, variety cities, and doing a whole lot of things. I joined Shell about 6 years ago, an oil and gas company, and over the years I was fascinated to see their transition into an holistic energy company, right? So what I'm here today to talk about is our journey towards creating a net zero software, right? It's not a topic that, and it's not an area that we are all very well versed with, but in the 15 minutes that I have with you, I just want to leave you behind and just tease a little interest on what it is about, and then either you can come and talk to us at our booth where we have SMEs who will answer some of your questions, and also will point you to some websites where you can go have a look, right? But before that, the mandatory definitions and cautionary note that we always put up in Shell when we give a public event is don't take any financial decisions based on what I'm saying. I'm sure you're not going to take it in the 15 minutes that I'm going to talk about. This is something we do, and I was advised to do that. Why are we talking about net zero and everything else when I already gave you a segue that we are an energy company? So it's basically, and the reason why all of us are here, all of you are here, you're all working in the digitalization era, and digitalization plays a huge role in energy transition. And what is not an easy journey, and not everybody has the answers, but what we do is make an effort so that all of us can work together in this journey. A lot of developers join us, like you, to make a difference, to see how do we make the world a more sustainable place, really, and how do we collaborate to make that happen. A little about who we are really. We are a global energy company committed to diversity and inclusion, and to India as well. And as you know, it's in the public domain, as well as achieving net zero emissions by 2050. We are 116 years old and 93,000 employees, 30% female leaders, and we operate in 70 countries and serve 32 million retail customers a day. So our strategy to move towards energy transition is what we, and net zero emissions by 2020 is what we call powering progress, okay? And what we have done so far is in 2022 reports is we have reduced our emissions by 30%. And the interesting part is we are investing up to 3 billion per year in the renewables areas, and this is everything from wind powers, solar energy, how do we make greener energy, and this is just part of the investments that we do amongst the various other capex that we really invest in. Hydrogen is expected to play a very big role in mobility in the future, and we actually operate 10% of the global capacity of installed hydrogen. It will pick up, but at the moment we are at 10%, okay? And we also have around 140,000 electric vehicle charge points, and we aim to increase that by 2.5 million by 2030. So the question, why, if you're doing all these things, why is green software really vital, right? So the energy industry is actually going through double transformation. One, decarbonization, which is low carbon and net zero by 2050, and the other really is digital transformation. Every digital solution that you produce is deployed, whether hardware, software, has a carbon emission lifespan, from the devices to be used to the platforms that we build, right? And the need for these digital solutions is increasing, and as economies continue to grow and modernize. So in Shell, what we said, yes, let's take a holistic look at what we are doing. On one hand, yes, we are doing all the research that we can to move and discover new renewables solutions, and how do we deploy them. That's the energy part of it. Secondly, the digital solutions that are absolutely needed for this energy transition, what can we do to make them also green? because till now it was always on one part, but we ignored the other part in terms of what is it that we can do to make the digital solutions great. To that effect, let's see where we begin from. So the question you might have really is, so what is it to me? What is it I'm supposed to do really? All software solution onto these various data centers, and according to International Energy Agency, to reach the global net zero targets, emissions from data centers need to be halved by 2030, and that's because electricity powers data centers. Now for some interesting statistics on India. This is from the Government of India Power website, which is a very interesting statistics. Most electricity is in India is generated from fossil fuel, which is not a surprise. It's known as a coal country. 49% from coal, by burning coal, that's what I mean. What pleasantly surprised me, we are at 41% on renewables, which is not a very bad place to be, a lot of work to do. And these 41% come from wind turbine, solar, hydro, a variety of sources, 2% from nuclear, right? So electricity is actually the single biggest emitter of carbon. And surprised, not surprised, because electricity is still created by burning of fossil fuels and mostly coal if it is, if you're talking of India, but different countries, different regions, different time, this equation, this map will change. So it's critical for each of us in the room to understand the challenges, what we can do to improve the environment performance of the digital solutions that we build, and because software engineers need to develop greener solutions. How do we do that? Okay, I've taken a very simplistic approach at a high level to explain what this is. So how do we reduce our net carbon footprint by the code that we write? Green software is a new approach. This helps us minimize our environmental carbon footprint. Three principles that they follow: energy efficiency, consume least electricity when possible; hardware efficiency, use least embodied carbon possible; and they have introduced a new concept called carbon awareness. Do more when electricity is clean, less when it is dirty. Okay, I will explain what this is in a little more detail. Green Software Foundation is a non-profit organization. It's a trusted ecosystem of people, standards, tooling, and website practices for green software. There is a website associated. Please do go have a look. And what they are really saying is reduce the amount of energy consumed by variety of methods, monitor the carbon intensity from the energy that we consume, optimize the embodied carbon of the hardware we operate on choosing greener hardware suppliers. Okay. So what do they say? They are saying you have a set of principles that you need to follow, and based on the principles you can derive patterns which are vendor agnostic and which are really technology agnostic. Based on that, derive the practices that really work for you. Okay. What we did last year, let give me an example. Last year we had a hackathon where we gave a problem statement, we defined the hardware, and we invited developers to say, go choose what is the solution that you really want to deploy. Interesting data came out from it, and then we found out that there is a direct correlation between time to execute and the energy use. Meaning faster software is more energy efficient. That does not mean you put a whole code into a loop, but we also found out any software that is designed well and consumes less and has good performance, performs 50x times really faster. And other results came on hardware, software languages. We found out C# and Rust really as programming languages far more efficient than Python. But these are not decisions that one can just make, because all of us have millions of lines of code which are there in the legacy, and so how do we optimize it? But the results threw up something very interesting when we started to monitor it. Let's take this a bit further in terms of carbon awareness that I talked about. It's a complex set of SDKs which are made available to us to track our tools and infrastructure. And there is an API available which you can use in your code to determine that which location should I deploy my solution. What this will then tell you, based on where you're working, it then tells you anything to do in the green is at that point in time, I just took a snapshot in time, is where probably you should deploy your solution. This carbon intensity is a far more complicated formula, which I might not have time to explain, but it just tells you your code, you can know what is the carbon intensity. There are tools available to measure that and to know that. There are other practices that are really available when I talked of patterns. Don't have monolithic code, break them into microservices, keep your static assets close on the client side, use compression when you're transferring data. A lot of such principles are really available for software coders to use, right? And in this way, you can really contribute to building a more sustainable code, a more sustainable environment, right? So the good news, everyone has started talking about it. In Shell, we have various pilots running to see where we are going, because at all times you have to balance business needs versus the cost of delivering something versus how efficient it is. But the journey has really begun to say that, look, whatever we do, because in some way we are also contributing to the carbon footprint, let's be very cautious on what we write, what we do. So when you're sitting in your machine and coding, just remember what you do really contributes in some way to the bigger energy transition picture. No one is excluded from this, everyone is included. We just need to see how we become part of the bigger energy transition. So till now, it always used to be performance, security, cost, and accessibility is something that we started looking when we started coding. And that's now, each of these things came over a period of time. Now there's another parameter, which is sustainability. So whatever you do, the language you choose, the software you choose, the hardware you choose, everything else, there is a sustainability parameter that you need to keep in mind, right? So we are committed to developing a carbon awareness and building a practice within Shell to help us reach our net zero goal. We have also set up a green software guild for those interested in green software principles, and are encouraging Shell employees to take the green software for practitioners course. And I would encourage each one of you to do that, read about it, visit our booth, and also look up on Green Software Foundation what they do. And when you go back to your companies, really see how best you can make use of it, and really help build a more cleaner solutions, because each code that you write, each software that you deploy has an effect on the environment. Nobody is excluded from this. So I hope I've just given you a teaser on what it is and how you build a net zero software. I will be around for an hour and a half, but at the Shell booth, where also I have other SMEs who can talk to you in details on each of these parameters. Please do join us and visit us. Thank you.